Welcome everyone to another episode of Streamed and Screened, an entertainment podcast about movies and TV from Lee Enterprises. I'm Terry Lipschutz, a senior producer at Lee and co-host of the program with my cinematic guidance counselor, Bruce Miller, editor of the Sioux City Journal and a longtime entertainment reporter. Bruce, school's in session. We're getting there.
Okay, we're going back to 2006, I believe.
Okay.
2006, High School Musical just popped on Disney. And I'm not kidding you, because I remember interviewing the people for the TV show. Zac Efron, Vanessa Hudgens. They were nobodies at that time. You didn't know about them. If there were people that you did know, they were on other Disney Channel shows, and people didn't expect anything out of it. It was like, this is okay. They're doing another kind of musical just to have something else to show. And that first movie became such a huge hit and made such big stars out of its cast that, of course, there's got to be part 2, and then there's got to be part 3. And then, you know, a network like Disney gets all kind of excited about, could we reboot this thing? Could there be something more? And people don't want to go back to what it was and just replay it. So Tim Federle, who was a Broadway actor, dancer, whatever, came up with a concept that they would do a series set in the high school where they filmed High School Musical. I know this is all nutty, right? And then how those kids would do if they did the first production of High School Musical, the play or the musical, at their high school. So you got to see kind of parallel characters vying for these roles. Well, they did not know that it was going to be a hit. In fact, Tim really had no experience producing, was not big on creating TV shows, and they got a hit out of it. High School Musical, the series, which is probably one of the longest, most cumbersome titles ever, popped with a new generation. They got their own High School Musical kids. The thing that I think is different between the two is the first one is kind of naive, whereas this one leans into a lot of things with high school kids that maybe they're facing today. And it does talk about things like LGBTQ issues, bullying, different kinds of things that might be a little more contemporary for kids. So in that first year, they did High School Musical as their school play. Then they came back and they did Beauty and the Beast. And then the third year, they went to camp and they did Frozen. Okay, so now this is the fourth year. And I got to tell you, the kids who are in this TV series have popped like you can't believe. Joshua Bassett, who plays Ricky, which would be the Troy Bolton kind of Zac Efron equal, has a huge singing career. Olivia Rodrigo, who was in the original of this ilk, won several Grammys last year.
Right.
She has this big music career, and it just keeps going like that. Julia Lester, who was a supporting actress, was on Broadway this last year in Into the Woods and got a Tony nomination. So this is spawning its own group of young actors. Well, knowing that they had a fourth year, Tim decided that he would contact those original High School Musical people and see if he could get them to come in for the fourth season. And in this fourth season, they are going to film a High School Musical. This is, how do you tell this? They're going to do a reunion show and bring back those actors and then cast kids from their high school, as extras. Okay. Right. So they do all this at the high school, and it turns out to be a real catalyst for change for those current high school kids at East High School. So there's a lot to unpack, but there are things in there that you will just hoot at. The woman who plays the director, Quinn is the character's name. Mm-hmm. You've seen her in YouTube videos, and she is just a hoot as the director. Well, she has these big plans, and she plucks one of the kids from the high school crowd to be one of the stars. And that sets up a kind of a battle, if you will, for her attention and her time. So it's very fascinating. At the end of the 8th episode, and this is not a spoiler alert, you get the kids all together and they sing a song that is so emotional. And it's not one of the ones from the original High School Musical. It's a Broadway song that really kind of gives you a sense of what that whole family atmosphere was like.
Wow. So this is an interesting one. Tim Federle, he really doesn't have the background in film and TV. I mean, he started out, he was writing fiction. I mean, he was writing, I think he wrote some cocktail guides, if I'm not mistaken.
And then he also wrote some kid books.
And some kid books.
Yeah, they're Better Off Nate or Better Nate. They're Nate books about a kid who, it sounds like Tim's story, who wants to be on Broadway in the worst way. And to heck with the kids in my school, I'm going to audition for Broadway. And so this Nate kid, and they did a TV movie about this, goes on a bus to New York, auditions for I think it's a Lilo and Stitch in the film.
Okay.
Show, a musical, and how that kid kind of maneuvers all of that kind of stuff. But there are elements in all of this that I think are autobiographical. Tim Federle said he always wanted to be an actor, a Broadway actor. And he did get on Broadway. He was in Little Mermaid in one of the dancing roles. But I think, like so many of them, there is a greater purpose that's out there. And he just had a good idea, pitched it to Disney, and they said, well, let's go with it.
Yeah, and he picked a good time to do it too, because he co-wrote the screenplay for Ferdinand, the film, and which was before that, so he had a little bit of credibility too, because that was he capitalized on the moment, which is great. He found that moment.
You'll hear I did an interview with 3 of the actors from High School Musical, the musical, the series, and Tim, but you'll hear them talk about that first year they did not know what was going to happen. They did not know if it was going to go, if they were good, this was one and done and they were out of it, but how this has been a big kind of a learning curve for them. And Tim talks about bringing back those old High School Musical ones and the lessons that they taught these young actors about being in the business. And I think, it's weird to see, because Tim's got a whole huge career ahead of him. He's got deals with other studios and stuff. So I think we don't have to worry about him. But you never know with kid actors. It could be they're out of it after 1 year or whatever. What happened to him was the pandemic happened in the middle of all of this. How do you do a series during a pandemic? And they really struggled to make sure that they were following all the COVID protocols and all that. And how they were just hung together. They became a very close family.
Okay, so who should we go to first? Should we go to Tim first? Should we kick it over to him?
You can. Yeah, let's go to Tim, because then you'd be able to kind of hear his take on how this season happened.
Set summer in motion with the most adventurous Honda vehicles yet, like the Passport and Pilot Trail Sport, and the Ridgeline, built for better off-road performance and engineered for more adventure. Summer's here. For a limited time, well-qualified buyers can get a 3.9% APR on a 2023 Honda Pilot, a 2.9% APR on a 2023 Passport, and a 0.9% APR on a 2023 Ridgeline.
Buy online, reserve from select dealers, or visit your local Honda dealer today.
See dealer for financing details.
How is it to say goodbye? This is a sad thing.
Well, it's bittersweet, mostly sweet. And I don't think of it as goodbye, because when people graduate, they go off, hopefully, to even sort of bigger dreams. But it's definitely full circle. And I think in the streaming era, to get 4 seasons at all feels like a miracle. And an extra miracle is I got to kind of wrap the series on my terms with the stories we wanted to wrap up. So I feel really good. But it's a full circle moment.
Well, when you were planning this last season, what point did you say, I want to get some of those original people into this?
Really early, because I knew that the big hook of the season was that Disney announced High School Musical 4, a reunion film at East High, which means, we needed some OG Wildcats up there on screen. So those phone calls went out early before we started production. Yeah, pretty early.
And were you able then to write like you did with Corbin, where he became a different person, if you will, in your series as opposed to the original one? Like, will
Yeah.
you see these other people where like, oh, they're really nasty. They're not like they are.
Yeah, no, they're themselves, and Monique Coleman in particular has a really beautiful moment in the series in season 4 that I think is so touching because they play themselves and their characters this season. They're a great group, and what was meaningful to me knowing we were wrapping the show was that Corbin and Lucas and Monique, they became so mega famous 15 years ago, as the cast of my series is becoming now. And we were able to really have like a wholesome, beautiful connection between them all. And I remember saying to my principal cast, look at how humble they've remained. Look at how they take care of each other. No matter what happens, you guys got to be there for each other as the years go on. And I think they really took that.
When you started this, what really did you think would happen? I mean, did you just think, oh, we'll get a year and that's it? Or did you think, you know what, this could last?
I knew so little about TV that I think I was out front first season being like, I want 7 seasons, which, I guess would have been nice. But the reality is, Bruce, I was thrilled we got the reception we did in season 1. I never took for granted, particularly in the streaming era, that we would ever get another season or another season or another season. And I think one of the real drivers of wrapping the series up was that I didn't want to end season 4 on a cliffhanger after the investment the cast, the crew, the writers, and the audience had put into it, and then not come back. And so I didn't quite know what I was doing season 1, but what I did have was a lot of hope and a big heart that if I hired real theater kids, they would bring these stories to life, and boy, did they deliver.
Well, when you were looking at casting, did you say, this one's going to blow up big in music, this one is going to, have a theater career? Did you have a sense of that when you started casting all these people?
Well, yes, in the sense that, Olivia and Josh were always great songwriters. Julia was always a big theater kid. What I maybe didn't expect was for it to happen so hyper fast. And I think they're all going to have very long careers where they ebb and flow and peak and valley at different times. And I don't know. I mean, they're like my kids, and so I'm biased. But I think they're the biggest stars in the world and the most talented, and that Sophia Wiley is going to be a mogul who runs an entertainment company because she has so much talent and wisdom and brilliance on screen and off. So nothing surprises me with this group.
So what about you? Where do you go from here?
Well, I write the next thing, and I've got, after the strike lifts, I have projects at Hulu and Disney Plus and some movies, and then we'll see where the fates take us. But for now, I'm sort of I'm not quite ready to say goodbye. So I'm just keeping an eye on August 9th, and I'll be at home streaming the whole thing and binging it this season.
How will you look back on this then? What will you say about this time of your life?
Well, I think I finally got high school right. I was in the closet the first time. I missed my high school graduation because I was doing a regional theater production of Oklahoma.
All right.
There's a lot of things I missed in high school, including first love and a first kiss and things that closeted gay kids didn't get in the 90s. And so if I look back at this, it's that I had this miraculous second chance, one of my favorite songs from the series, to get some of it right, or at least get a second chance at it. And I will forever be grateful for that.
All right, Bruce, thanks for the interview with Tim. And now we're going to go to some of the kid actors in the series. And this is Frankie Rodriguez, Julia Lester, and Dara Reneé, correct?
Right. And Julia Lester is the one who was just on Broadway and Into the Woods. Frankie plays Carlos. And if you're a fan of the show and Carlos and Seb are a big couple in the thing. And then Dara she plays the kind of the brain of the whole school. And she wrestles with the idea of what college am I going to go to after this? So here are the three from High School Musical, the series.
Michael J. for Hope for the Warriors. Started back in '06 at Camp Lejeune. Military families witnessing the effects of war on their loved ones. Now, almost 20 years later, they've aided over 53,000 service members, veterans, and families with confidential, high-quality behavioral health care services at little or no cost to post 9/11 vets and their families. Over 91% of every dollar donated goes directly to the programs. If you're as concerned about our heroes as I am, go to hopeforthewarriors.org.
What did the three of you think this was all going to be when you started the series?
Oh my gosh. When we started, we didn't even know if we would make it to 4 seasons. When we ended the first season, we kind of filmed 2 alternate endings just in case we didn't get to come back. And so I think this like kind of blew all of our expectations out of the water. And now we get to be here graduating. It's amazing.
Well, some great things have come from this. And Julia, you're right there. Come on. I watched the Tonys and said, oh my God, please let her win. Please let her win. Did you guys think this could be a launching pad for other things? Did you think that this would lead to other work and other kinds of opportunities?
I mean, I think that's sort of what you always hope for, but you can never really rely on maybes or the possibilities of things. And I think when we started season 1, what we really wanted was to create a show that was different and set us apart from things that people had seen in the past, especially for Disney. And, you know, we were part of launching the Disney Plus platform. So I think we were really focused on that being successful and being received well. And it totally was. And so I think once that happened, the world sort of like opened up for all of us. And it's just been an incredible journey seeing how all of us have thrived since then.
So what was the Tony thing like? Was it just incredible?
It was amazing. The New York theater community is just like so loving and so supportive of each other. And it was really cool to go there and feel like I was a part of it and belonged with them in some way. It was really magical. Yeah.
Well, what was it like having the OG High School Musical people with you this year? Was it different? Was it strange? Like, were you like asking them lots of questions about what you wanted to know?
Oh, whoa. I mean, it was so cool. I mean, growing up with those as your role models and then actually working with them was so mind-blowing. And specifically for me, I knew Monique Coleman before I booked High School Musical, and I messaged her and I was like, hey, Queen, I'm playing someone like Taylor. And she supported me and uplifted me. So being able to be in scenes with her is such a full circle moment, and I couldn't have asked for a better person to show me the ropes. I love Queen.
Well, how hard was it to say goodbye?
I mean, it's always hard to say goodbye, especially to this specific experience, because it has brought us so many amazing things, especially each other. So I think it's definitely a bittersweet. You want to graduate and you want to move on and you want to go on to the next chapter of life, but also you're like, maybe just like 5 more minutes.
Yeah.
And talk about Tim's role in all of this. You know, he said, I really didn't know what I was doing when I started. What has he been like during this whole series?
As we famously say, he is our fearless leader, and he has been our leader from day one. He is the reason all of us are here in this point in our lives together. And, you know, the greatest experiences happen when things trickle from the top down. And he really has created the most loving, accepting working environment. And I said this earlier, like, this being like all of our first like real big long running job has sort of set the precedent for the environments that we want to work in and the people that we want to work with and the way that we want to work. And so without this experience, like, you know, who knows like the rooms that we would be in, but it's been really wonderful. And it's really thanks to him and his genius brain.
Well, when you look at this, what was the turning point for the series? What was the time when you said, you know what, this is going to last. This is going to be more than just 1 year and out?
I feel like once we started to see our supporters' reactions to what we were creating, I mean, our family, I call them, has been so beautiful and so brilliant in accepting us and accepting everything that we do. And I'm so grateful for their support and for all that they've done for us. Because honestly, I feel like we wouldn't be here without them. And they literally are die hard. And, you know, I'm die hard for them so far. So that's when I feel like we all really knew.
Do you talk about coming back for a reunion?
already. Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. Anything to put us in the same room with each other, we're there.
Exactly.
Well, you guys, thank you so much and congratulations. It's been so fun to watch and especially to see how your careers have all just blossomed. It's incredible. So thanks so much from a diehard fan.
Thank you. Thanks for all the love over the years.
All right, Bruce, thanks again for that interview. And well, we were getting to the bleak part of summer. I know we've gotten through a lot of the big blockbusters that were coming. I know there's a few more here. You know, you get a few like Meg is coming out and the Ninja Turtles and Gran Turismo. I know we got very greedy. But we've got the writers strike and we don't know, and the actors are striking. We don't know what's coming back and when and where. I mean, I'm almost running out of things to watch. I mean, my wife and I are kind of kicking around. Maybe we can talk about some things there.
We will do that the next week. I'll tell you, if you are a big fan of the High School Musical kind of Broadway things, summer or theater camp, I guess it's called theater camp. Ben Platt and Noah Galvin produced this, and it's kind of a mockumentary that's out there. It's opening slowly across the country. It's not a wide release, so you might find it at a theater in your community or not. You'll have to wait a bit for it to come out, but it is opening in slow waves. But yes, we will come back next week, and I've got great ideas for you about things you should binge that you haven't seen, and we're also going to talk about the ones you must have seen by this time, because the Emmy Awards will be coming in September, and you need to binge a lot of stuff before we get to that.
All right. Yep. I definitely have to become even more of a couch potato than I already am. So you'll contribute to that, and we will be back again next week.
Harry, we're all in this together.